I let my husband's best friend move into our spare room after his divorce. I noticed my husband was spending more time with him than with me, but I thought they were just reconnecting. Until I found a receipt in our bathroom trash for a romantic dinner for two, under my name. When I asked him about it, he smiled and said, "You were never the one I wanted." I didn't scream. I just showed him the photos from the hidden cameras I installed and left them both with nothing but shame. This isn't something I ever thought I'd write, but I need to get it out. What happened to me changed everything: who I trusted, what I believed in, how I saw myself. It's been a long road, and it started with one simple decision that I thought was kind. I let my husband's best friend move in. Mark had just gone through a rough divorce. We lived in Fort Worth, Texas, in a quiet two-story house we'd bought together 8 years ago. My husband, Tom, had known Mark since college. They were like brothers. Mark's wife had left him for another man, and he had nowhere to go. He showed up on our porch with a suitcase and a sad face. I opened the door and told him he could stay as long as he needed. At first, it was fine. Mark was polite, quiet, and always offered to help with chores. Tom seemed happier. They watched football together in the living room, drank beers on the back patio, stayed up late laughing. I figured it was just two old friends reconnecting. I even felt glad that Tom wasn't so stressed anymore. I didn't mind being the third wheel in my own house if it meant peace. But something shifted. Tom stopped coming to bed early. He was always up late with Mark. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. and find the living room light still on. Some nights I'd walk in and they'd both go silent, like I'd just interrupted something. Other nights I'd hear whispers through the wall. I started to feel like an outsider in my own home. When I tried to talk to Tom, he brushed me off. "We're just catching up. He needs me right now," he said. I believed him. I didn't want to be the jealous wife who didn't understand friendship. But deep down, something felt wrong. Really wrong. Then came the night that changed everything. I was cleaning the bathroom, emptying the small trash can like I always do. That's when I saw it, a long white slip of paper half crumpled at the bottom. A receipt. I pulled it out and saw it was for a dinner for two at a place called Grace, a fancy restaurant downtown. The date was 2 nights ago. But here's the part that froze me. The reservation name was mine. I hadn't been out to dinner with Tom in months. I sat on the edge of the tub holding the receipt, staring at it, feeling my stomach twist into knots. I waited until he got home that night. He walked in, all smiles, carrying fast food like nothing had happened. I stood by the kitchen island and held up the receipt. "Did you take me out to dinner 2 nights ago?" He looked at the paper, and then at me. And then he smiled. A cold, twisted little smile. "You were never the one I wanted." Those were his exact words. I felt like I had just been slapped. The room started to spin, but I didn't show it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there. Then I walked to the hallway closet. I reached up into the top shelf and pulled down a plain black folder. "I thought something was off," I said quietly. "So I put cameras in the living room and the guest room. About a month ago." I opened the folder and slid out a stack of photos. Clear, color-printed stills taken from the footage. One showed Tom and Mark holding hands on the couch. Another showed them kissing. Another had them shirtless, in the hallway, pressed against the wall. I laid the photos on the table. Tom's face dropped. He didn't move. He didn't even blink. Right then, Mark walked in from the garage. Saw us both standing there, saw the photos. He looked from me to Tom, then back to the photos. Nobody said a word. Finally, I broke the silence. "You both lied to me. In my house. Under my roof. And you dragged me into it like I was a fool." Still no response. I walked past them, went upstairs, and started packing. I didn't rush. I didn't care if they watched. I took what mattered: my clothes, my laptop, a few family pictures. I called a friend who lived on the other side of town. She said I could stay with her. I left that night and never looked back. The next day, I filed for divorce. I had already spoken to a lawyer a few weeks before, back when the late nights started and the weird silences. I was ready. I froze our joint accounts, took my name off the house, and let them keep it. It was poisoned anyway. But I made sure they couldn't keep the car. Or the savings. Or the comfort of pretending they were just friends. I sent copies of the photos to both their families. Mark's parents. Tom's brother. Even his boss, who had invited us to their wedding once. If they wanted to live in the open, I was going to give them what they wanted. No secrets, no lies, just the truth. And now here I am. A year later, with my own apartment, a new job, and a fresh start. After I left Tom and Mark that night, I thought that would be the end of it. But when someone betrays you that deeply, they don't always let you move on quietly. At first, things were calm. I moved in with my friend Holly. She lived in a small duplex in Arlington and let me crash in her guest room. I got up early every day, went to work, came home, tried to forget, tried to heal. She never asked too many questions, which I appreciated. But 3 weeks after I filed for divorce, Tom started showing up at my job. I work at a local real estate office. I'm a coordinator, mostly dealing with paperwork and scheduling. One afternoon, I walked out to my car and there he was, sitting on the hood like he belonged there. I froze. "What do you want?" I asked, staying back. He looked like hell. Unshaven, tired eyes, shirt wrinkled. "I made a mistake," he said. "I messed up." I didn't say a word. I thought being with Mark was what I wanted. But it's not. He's not you. It wasn't real. Now I was angry. I walked right up to him. "You kissed him in our living room. You touched him in our hallway. You lied to my face. Don't you dare stand here now and say it wasn't real." He looked down. "I'm sorry." "No, you're not," I snapped. "You're just alone." And I walked away. The next week, I got a call from my lawyer. "Tom's contesting the divorce terms," she said. I stared at the phone in disbelief. He already signed. He agreed. Now he says he was manipulated. That he was under emotional distress. He wants to split the house value and claims he's owed half your savings. Half my savings. Money I earned. Money I had saved before I even met him. That was when I knew Tom wasn't just sorry. He was bitter. Angry. Ashamed. And now he wanted to punish me for not crawling back. So I fought back. I gathered every record I had. Every receipt. Every bank statement. I pulled texts. Emails. I even pulled a copy of the footage from the security cams and sent it to my lawyer. She didn't flinch. "Let him try. We'll bury him in court." But that wasn't even the worst of it. One night, about 2 months after I left, I got a Facebook message. It was from a woman named Celia. "Hi. You don't know me, but I think I'm dating your ex-husband." My stomach turned. She told me she'd met Tom at a bar. That he said he was newly divorced after his wife cheated and left him. He told her I was unstable. That I'd been controlling. That I had a temper. He even told her that Mark was my cousin. That he had to help him out after I blew up the family. I couldn't believe it. I sent her screenshots. The receipt. One of the photos. The divorce documents. She didn't reply right away. A few hours later she just said, "Thank you." I had a bad feeling. A week after that, she messaged again. "He showed up drunk at my place last night. Screamed at me. I told him to never come back." That's when I realized Tom was spiraling. But instead of feeling pity, I felt rage. I hadn't just been cheated on. I had been smeared, lied about, dragged through the mud while he played the victim. And Mark? He wasn't innocent either. He was still living in my old house, still working his job, still pretending he was someone worth trusting. I started gathering more. Quietly. I didn't tell anyone, not even Holly. I went on LinkedIn. I found Mark's job. He worked for a big company downtown. Corporate marketing. I remembered one night, a few years ago, Mark had drunkenly told a story about sleeping with a coworker at a conference. She was married, he said. But we had a good time. Back then I laughed it off. Now I looked that woman up. And I found her. And I sent her a message. Her name was Jenna. She worked in the same office as Mark still did, from what I could tell. Married, 2 kids, lived in a nice neighborhood outside Dallas. I kept my message short. Hi Jenna, this is probably a weird message. I'm reaching out because I used to be married to someone close to Mark's last name. A few years ago, he mentioned something about a relationship with a married coworker during a company retreat. I don't want to get involved in your business. Just thought you might want to know in case anything he said to you lately doesn't match up. Happy to talk if needed. She replied 3 days later. I don't know what he told you, but nothing ever happened. He made a pass at me. I shut it down. He told people otherwise. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her what he'd bragged about, and that he had been sleeping with my husband while living under our roof. I could almost feel the silence from the other side of the screen before her next reply came. Unbelievable. I should have trusted my gut. Thank you for telling me. This helps more than you know. 2 weeks later, Mark lost his job. I don't know if it was because of her, or if someone else finally spoke up. But I do know he was called into HR, and by Friday, his desk was cleared out. Tom tried to call me the night Mark got fired. Left a voicemail, slurring, angry, bitter. You ruined him. You ruined both of us. What kind of sick person spies on people and sends pictures to their families? I saved the voicemail. The next morning, I blocked his number. I thought things might settle down after that. But people like Tom and Mark don't like to be exposed. They don't like consequences. They want to keep their mess hidden, and when you shine a light on it, they lash out. I started getting strange calls from unknown numbers. Hang-ups. Then one night, someone egged my car. A neighbor's camera caught a blurry figure, hood up, face hidden. But the walk looked familiar. Too familiar. I went to the police. Filed a report. Nothing they could do without proof, they said. But that's when I decided I was done playing defense. I started writing everything down. Every incident. Every message. I created a timeline. I gathered every photo, every screenshot, every voicemail. I gave it to my lawyer and told her I wanted full protection in the divorce. No mediation, no contact. She nodded. I'll make it happen. Meanwhile, Jenna sent me one last message. He's gone. Out of the company. But you should know, you're not the only one. There's at least 2 others he's tried to manipulate. One of them might come forward. I thanked her. Told her I hoped she was okay. She said she was, and that it felt good knowing the truth was finally catching up with him. It wasn't about revenge anymore. Not exactly. It was about not letting them rewrite the story. About making sure they didn't get to act like victims while I carried the blame. Tom and Mark had tried to destroy me quietly, behind my back, inside my home, under my roof. Now, everything they had built together was falling apart. One lie at a time. The final court date came that fall. I walked into that courthouse in a dark blue suit, hair tied back, no makeup. I wanted them to see the woman they thought they could break, standing tall, clear-eyed, with nothing to hide. Tom was already inside, sitting next to his lawyer, trying to look calm. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Mark didn't come. Good. He knew better. The judge went through everything, the division of property, the frozen assets, the evidence I'd submitted. My lawyer laid it all out, clean and sharp. The photos, the timeline, the voice messages, the job loss, the retaliation. Then Tom's lawyer tried to argue emotional stress, that I'd set him up, that installing cameras in my own house was an invasion of privacy. The judge stared at him for a long second, then said, "You're telling me she invaded privacy by discovering her husband cheating in her own home? On her account? With her name being used to cover it up? That's your argument?" The room went quiet. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. Fully. No assets awarded to Tom. House went up for sale, proceeds went to me. The retirement fund stayed with me. The car was mine. I even got a restraining order, which the judge signed on the spot. Tom just sat there, staring at the floor like he couldn't believe it. After court, I didn't look back. I walked out into the cold air and exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. That night, I got a final message from Jenna. Just thought you'd like to know. Mark's facing a civil complaint from someone in HR, workplace harassment. Word is, he's trying to move out of state. Good riddance. But here's the part one haven't told anyone, the part one still think about late at night. There were signs. Long before Mark moved in, long before the cameras. I saw little cracks in my marriage and looked away. I let Tom's distance slide. I let my own silence grow. I gave him space when I should have asked questions. I wasn't responsible for what he did, but I made myself small to keep the peace. I made excuses to avoid conflict. That was my mistake. And I'll never do it again. Today, I live in a small condo in Denton. I adopted a dog. I joined a book club. I make coffee in the morning without tiptoeing around anyone's mood. And every time I get a text from an unknown number, I smile and delete it. They thought they could hide their shame behind my back. Instead, I handed it right back to them in front of everyone they knew. I didn't burn their house down. I just turned on the lights and left them sitting in the wreckage.